double check it here, and then I'll start the.
Did you click it?
Did I what?
Are we live?
Oh, stream wise.
Doesn't look like it, though. Oh,
Boom.
there we go.
It's delayed by 10, 15 seconds or so.
Okay.
Gotta prevent the streams,
the cursing, you know.
the stream snipers and all that coming in and stealing your last kill in Fortnite or whatever it is the youngsters are doing these days.
Are you still playing Fortnite? Is Fortnite still cool?
It's not.
I don't know.
Never was.
Was it ever cool?
No. Nope, it was never cool. There we go.
Are we recording audio?
Yep, we got it.
Man.
So, no, to answer that question, no, Fortnite was never cool.
Hey.
No Battle Royale was, even though we all played them.
I didn't. I'm not a big online player. Not a big shooter guy. I just like to play like good RPGs.
Some good JRPGs.
I don't play too much JRPGs though. No.
Wow.
But play Crusader Kings, Stellaris, a lot of Paradox Interactive games, and
as I am now over the hill. I am now 30 years old, and thus old.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah. It was your birthday on Friday. Is your 30th? Is
I'm 30,
you
yeah.
dirty 30?
30.
Oh man,
I'm old now.
I'm almost there, brother. 3 more years.
I can only play consoles I grew up with. I can only listen to music that was made prior to me turning 30.
Yeah, your brain is crystallized now.
Yep,
You're stuck in your ways.
It's locked in. It's over.
It's over. It's all downhill from here, honestly.
It is. I've lived a fifth of my natural life, and it's just all downhill from here.
Where'd you get that number from?
You ever watch Parks and Rec?
I did.
Yeah. It's what is Chris?
Oh, Chris Traeger?
Chris Traeger, thank you.
Yeah.
He's like, I believe that I'm the first person to live to 150 years old. So 30.
They did project or predict that the first person to live to be 150 is already alive right now.
Oh yeah, it's Jeff Bezos.
Probably.
It's the only one that can afford it. It's a new technology that costs $184,000 for a single day's dose. He's got enough.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. What are those
I don't know, I wonder.
statistics that are like if you made $10,000 a day from the time like?
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, apparently if you made like $1 million since like Jesus walked the earth, like $1 million a day, you still wouldn't
have enough money to.
I don't know if that's true. I know it's an absurd amount though.
It is an absurd amount. $1 billion is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I could spend it though. No.
I don't think I could.
So if any multi-bazillionaires have a spare $1 billion, they can throw my way.
I don't think I could spend $1 billion.
No, you can't. It's so much.
Honestly,
money.
if someone gave me $1 million, I could probably live pretty comfortably till I died.
I would be good with $1 million. So people don't get.
Like I probably couldn't quit work and live off that $1 million forever. But if I
forever, but pretty lengthy amount of time.
Yeah, like if I still kept my normal day job and then also had $1 million, there's
for that for sure.
I would live very luxuriously.
You'd be a landlord. No,
I wouldn't. I've thought about that. Like, would I attempt to get some sort of passive income if I ever came into a large amount of money? But I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of moral obstacle that you'd have to get over if you were going to do something like that.
I don't think I could. I feel like if I had that much money, I would just spend it on people. Your house needs remodeled. Boom, here's 20 grand.
Yeah, right. Just show up, just tell people out.
I would make it a reality show. I would definitely do it for gratification. It'd be my new YouTube show.
Yeah. Oh, you just fucking change people's lives.
Bob's Billionaires Builders.
I would just go to restaurants, club. Just leave $1,000 tips everywhere.
Yeah.
So everyone that I go to just completely change that person's fucking. It's crazy because if you got $1,000 and you weren't expecting, stuff would significantly change.
Yeah, 100%. Let me see here. I want to know the founding of who the Burt's Bees guy is. You know who that is?
I know what Burt's Bees is.
like the founder like took his money and like now he lives in like a cabin out in the woods in Maine or something like that. Like he just wants to be left alone.
So what does he do with his money?
He just hangs out. He doesn't really do anything with it. He just, he took his.
He just collects it then.
Pretty much, he took his money and ran.
Yeah.
And just hangs out. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I could be could be thinking of an entirely different person, but
maybe
if it wasn't Birch Bees, it was somebody else.
Yeah, I don't
know. Doesn't matter.
Anyway, hey, the Gestapo is here in America now.
It finally happened. Yep. Homeland Security federal officers have descended upon Portland.
Yeah. And they've been saying that they're going to start sending them all across the U.S. So that's neat.
I'm pretty sure we predicted that.
Well, we had that video from last week of that protester just got like swept up into a van,
Yeah, I remember. Because you were like, is this going to ruin my night?
Yeah. Oh, it kind of did.
Yeah, it did.
But who would have suspected that it would have gotten worse?
There's a lot of protesters who are calling for it, like as like a warning, like, and then sure enough, it went nationwide, or it's going to anyway. Yeah. So it's an interesting decision, because
if an unmarked car full of like unidentified people attempted to like start kidnapping people, like I don't think it'd be unjustified to fire upon those kinds of people. Right. You have no idea if they're kidnapping you. Yeah, like they don't identify themselves and they're in a car and they're in a car that's unmarked. Like, who knows? These could be sex traffickers. They could be kidnappers. They could, I don't know. They'd be doing whatever.
There was I spent a lot of time on my favorite Chinese-owned website, Reddit, and on the posting of that video, the first video to come out with kidnapping effectively protesters, and you can say, oh, it's not kidnapping, whatever. I don't care. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. And one of the top comments was something along the lines of, my God, I just completely went blank. Like it's so overwhelming.
You're drunk.
It was like,
already.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how would you know that these aren't just regular old people or right-wing supremacists? Or
you don't.
Like,
you don't.
It could be anybody in tech, Walmart tactical gear coming out and just coming for you.
But if like
in Enterprise rental Chrysler minivans.
Yeah, but if I started shooting on these people though, like I'd get the book thrown at me.
Oh, 100%.
Like I'd probably be in prison for life if not killed outright. But it's like, how do I know that these people are somehow federally sanctioned?
Remember, they arrested Breonna Taylor's boyfriend for shooting back from an unidentified no-knock raid.
Yeah. No, here's the thing, man, and I'm not going to get my hopes up, but something like 30% of the population missed this last month's rent check.
Yes.
And eviction protection ends at the end of the month. Okay?
Correct.
Unemployment is at 20% right now. At least the effective unemployment rate is at 20% right now. If nothing happens by the end of this month, and maybe not even that full 30% get evicted, but a decent chunk of people get evicted and are effectively homeless now. We have the Gestapo running around, arresting protesters, unidentified people. Like, is this not sort of, do you not feel it? Do you not feel it in the air that there's something coming, that there's something about to happen?
Me with half a brain knows that something is going to come along the line. And I've seen people make references to some act or law that they passed at one point in time that basically allowed police to stand outside of voting stations and turn people away.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you think that won't happen now, like especially in states where Trump's going to lose, like.
So here's kind of the thing though. In more like radical lefty circles, some people, like a lot of left-leaning people, like FDR for passing sort of like social democratic reforms and things like that. But some people even further left than that actually condemn FDR for saving capitalism, essentially, because he inherited the Great Depression,
Right.
and he proposed all of these, civilian conservation corps and Social Security and all of these things to kind of pull us out of the Depression and effectively saved capitalism. But we were perhaps on the brink of some sort of like socialist revolution during the Great Depression. We're looking at numbers unseen since the Great Depression coming up here. And when you look at what the CARES Act was, $2.6 trillion?
Yeah, I believe so.
Andrew Yang, you remember him.
Oh, yeah.
He said his price tag for his freedom dividend, for giving everybody in the country $12,000 a year, right? $1,000 a month, was what, $1.7 trillion?
I think 2.2.
Was it 2.2?
Yeah, I mean, less than what? And that's not including the money that they've printed just to give to banks.
That's $12,000 that they could have given everybody, but instead, all of that money went to corporations. Now the Republicans are saying that they will not pass another COVID stimulus bill unless it includes like a $1.6 trillion tax cut on capital gains. And something like 90% of stocks are owned by the top 1%.
92.
So they're effectively using this pandemic as a way to do like a reverse Robin Hood, where they're taking from the poor and giving to the rich. I think Jeff Bezos made something like $10 billion so far this year, something like that.
Oh,
Maybe
it's like 40 something.
Was it 40 something billion this year? Like the rest of the country is struggling, and yet he's making obscene amounts of money. There's something about to happen, man.
There will be. What I've noticed too is like, let me see here. Here's one from May 1st, 2020. U.S. billionaires boost wealth by $406 billion as markets rebound. That's just all of that was.
Okay, here we go. Amazon CEO added $35 billion to his net worth. Okay,
there we go.
So it was even worse than what I had said.
It was worse than what I said. June 8th, he's the richest person in the world again, and made all of his money back that he gave to his wife after they divorced.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it a little bit before the podcast started, but I'm still convinced that I think we'll see a headline within the next month or two that says, Amazon or Walmart has hired their own private army.
Well, we were goofing off about how moves are being made to sort of privatize all of these institutions. That it wouldn't be surprising if these like capitalist ghouls hopped on board and co-opted the defund the police movement to actually to privatize the police, essentially. We know that they want to privatize the military. We already have private military contracts for all of our weaponry and equipment. And Donald Trump is trying to privatize the VA now. So if something doesn't change, I don't know. I don't see how anything short of like an actual revolution is going to happen.
I once read this guy's I think it was written like 30, 40 years ago or something like that, but it was like a timeline for civil unrest in the United States. And like we're like spot on the trajectory that this guy projected. And mass acts of violence will be probably the next thing we see.
What do you mean? Like we haven't been seeing that? Like we haven't already been seeing that?
Fair enough. Have you seen this video here? This one right here, the middle fingers. This is a good one right here. I'll let you check. It's a 10-second clip, so you can react to it. This is a protester in Portland just standing there.
And they're just beating the hell out of him.
And they're just whacking on him, and he turns around and walks away and gives them the fingers, even though they're beating him with batons. Like,
nah, this is disgusting, bro.
It really is.
The actions that the police have been taking recently has been just absolutely appalling. Real mask off fucking moment for them. We're realizing that they're just a group of state sanctioned fucking thugs.
They're just
fuck the police, dude.
People who are legally allowed to do whatever they want to.
They're the only people who can legally wield violence on people.
Like here's a good example.
And then you have all these people who are like, "Oh, we're gonna resign if they start like holding us accountable," as though they'd only really fucking joined so that they could wield violence against their fellow man. It is a self-selecting profession. It
Right.
attracts a certain kind of person.
It 100% does. And good cops, you know what happens to good cops? They get fired.
They get fired, they get killed,
Fired and killed. Let me see. I'm trying to.
or they
find
quit,
this.
or they quit on their own volition. You know.
Let me see here. This is one I was having a conversation with my dad the other day, and I was telling him, like, this is how messed up this is. And some laws may have changed since then, but this is from 2018. And in 34 states, Kansas, I know, has passed a law since then. So we'll say 33 on the conservative end, can have sex with detainees legally.
Yeah.
Basically with or without consent. They're legally,
Yeah, they're legally allowed to
rape you.
allowed to rape.
Yeah, 100%.
But that happens all the time too, though. I know someone personally who, and I know this is anecdotal evidence, but yeah, she was given a full cavity search when she was 15, just randomly on her way home from school, and they didn't detain her, they didn't like arrest her, they just gave her a search in broad fucking daylight and then let her go. And so yeah, they essentially sexually assaulted her.
That's awful.
Yeah. No, it's fucking terrible. And
Yeah.
you know, the police suck. ICE is worse. You have, you know, story after story of just the inhumane things that they do on the daily basis. I mean, just did you see that College Humor video about ICE? Where they're just talking about how like it seems like everyone hates us. They don't show us any sort of respect, and then they bring some kids in. He's like, oh, another kid for the cage, another kid for the cage, and they're just like locking these kids up in the cages. But it's not even like, even that is more tame than the actual stories I've been hearing of ICE.
No,
you know,
it's awful.
you know, 14,000 kids have come forward saying they've been sexually assaulted by ICE. How many thousands are just missing, just gone? You know. There's that story of that Muslim man who was illegally detained, and they starved him and then only fed him pork sandwiches. You know,
You got to torture him.
Yeah,
culturally,
because
culturally torture him. There was
and
a
it's
story
like
of
I'm not religious. I don't put a whole lot of stock into that kind of. But like that to that man,
yeah,
that was literally like his fucking soul that you've condemned.
You're tainting him.
Yeah,
his
like
belief structure.
Like I can't even imagine what kind of like psychological toll that shit takes on a person. You know.
Well, I mean,
no. So like ICE is evil. Police are evil. You know, and then there's that conservative radio station that I've continued to call into them, except now I do a voice like a southern accent, so they don't know it's me anymore, because they've banned me. But yeah, they're talking about how like they want to set it, like leftists and the Democrats, even though those are two different things, want to set up some sort of like authoritarian communist state. But then they also talk about how like they want to defund the police. You realize that those are like incompatible ideals, right? Like you don't set up a dictatorship by defunding the police. You set up a dictatorship by overfunding the police.
You set up a
by
dictatorship
arming them to the teeth is how you set up a dictatorship.
by sending unmarked, unidentified people in Enterprise Renovans
Yes.
into unrestful sites.
Some of them are just people on their way home that get pulled over and then
had
just
somebody-
like swept up into these unmarked cars.
I've had somebody make that argument to me. It's like, why would you even go into those areas? It's like, what if you live there? Like the Chop Zone, or is that Chop Zone in Seattle?
Yeah.
When they
Chop.
occupied,
Chaz,
when the
Chop.
police occupied Carl's site there. No. And the pictures that came out of that were crazy. There was just like tanks after tanks just rolling down the street, or APCs if you want to get super duper technical. It doesn't matter. People who lived there were getting arrested for trying to go home.
Yeah.
So they said, nobody's getting in here. And it's like, my apartment's right there, bro. Like, how you going to turn me away? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, if you want to start an authoritarian regime, you don't defund the police. Like those are such inconsistent ideas, but it's just fear mongering.
It's really what it is.
Like the right wing are just the
know,
dumbest people on the fucking planet.
From a moral perspective, the right wing themselves are followers. You know, they're the ones always crying out about the sheeple and all that jazz. But in reality, they're the followers, because they follow everything they say. Like now, there's a crazy amount of Joe Biden is a socialist memes coming out.
I
like
wish.
we talked about this a little bit, and it's like they should love Joe Biden. He's done everything for them. Like,
Joe Biden is a Republican.
He's done everything they want.
Mitt Romney is probably to the left of Joe Biden at this point.
I would agree with that.
You know?
I still believe in 2024, Romney will be their pick. I 1,000% think, and he's going to do it by
absolutely
running.
not.
I disagree, and I think he's going to do it by running to the left of Joe Biden. I bet.
Oh, you think they're going to party switch again?
100%.
Oh.
They just want to win and enact their thing, even if they're liars. That's the thing.
Ooh. But, like, no, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they might do it. I don't think it's a winning strategy. I think people are too entrenched into their team sport.
True.
But that's what I was saying during the primaries is that, like, they're going to call every Democrat a socialist, a communist. Like, this whole idea that Bernie wasn't electable because he is a self-professed socialist, they are going to call everybody a socialist. They would have called Mike Bloomberg, who's literally like a 64 billionaire. They would have called him a communist.
100%.
You know.
Well, that's what it's about. It's just about, like I said, it's about winning. That's why I say Romney will be their pick, and it's not going to be because he actually wants to do what he says he is. He's a complete liar.
Yeah, but he's been positioning himself as some sort of reasonable man.
Like, basically what they're doing is they're making the assumption that Trump is going to get blown out. This is what's happening.
He will.
And so what happens here is you have the never Trumpers who, even though they oppose Trump, they still do everything he wants.
They don't oppose him for any ideological reason.
Yeah, they don't oppose him for that. Yeah. So
they oppose him because he's mean on Twitter.
And then you have somebody like Romney who's going to arguably be to the left of somebody like Joe Biden. This is all conjecture and prediction. So, if I'm wrong in 4 years, I hope so. And then he's going to run to the left of Joe Biden because Joe Biden will block every progressive bill that comes out. And
but Joe Biden had said that he is only going to be a one-term president. Like, he said it himself. So, yeah, it's so bizarre. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
It's
but
hard
I
to make predictions too.
But the Republican base is firmly in the Trump campaign category, though. Like, they are not. They don't like Mitt Romney because Mitt Romney voted to impeach.
That's true.
So, like,
well, that's what I think. That's why I think, though, because like fuck. It's hard to make those predictions because it is true that Trump does garner like a 90+% approval rating amongst Republicans.
Yeah. So, like, I think that would be a losing move to put Mitt Romney up there because Mitt Romney voted to impeach, so they've already written him off as deep state traitor. You know what I was thinking, though? It'd be the funniest thing to do. Like, if I were actually like Donald Trump's campaign manager, I would run so far to the left of Joe Biden. Because you know that his followers do not have a single cogent thought in their heads other than Trump good. Trump good is all they believe. Like, I don't know if you've seen that picture I posted where it's like people on Twitter who one day are saying like masks are stupid, they're the dumbest thing, I'm never gonna wear one.
Oh yeah.
And then they're replying to the picture of Donald Trump in a mask like, oh, he looks so cool, where can I get one like that? Like, if Donald Trump came out and in favor of decriminalizing marijuana federally, Medicare for all, just all of these left policies that Joe Biden has already said that he wasn't going to do, like, he would win.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's so dumb that they're not going to do that. I mean, honestly, I don't think he would actually pass them. Right. But he could say it.
Yeah, he could say it. That's what I think the Romney strategy is. Because look at Bernie. Bernie won with 15 out of 17 segments of independent populations, which are the same people that voted effectively for Donald Trump 2016. Like, so that's the strategy to go for. Can you bust that one for me? I can't do that. I think it's above my skill level. Haven't studied that skill enough.
I grew up in the hood, brother.
I haven't farmed the XP for that. I used to be able to open them off the edge of a table, but I stopped doing that because years ago I smashed a table in half because I hit it too hard.
Yeah, I have to not care about the furniture that I'm doing it against because it does scratch it up, even if you successfully.
Yeah, it tears it up. I felt really bad too. That was a fairly nice table.
But
let's see.
I mean, that
here.
could happen. I don't know.
Anything can
They
happen at this
switched
point
platforms
in time.
before. Everything's so bizarre. Everything's so weird. But we know that. I think I would say that maybe even the majority of not Republican voters, but Republican politicians and the majority of Democrat politicians generally share a pretty unified vision of what they want to get done. You
I
know?
agree.
I think there are people on the outliers, the squad, AOC and Ilhan Omar and them are actual progressives, and then people like Donald Trump are actual fascists.
Yeah.
But like, there's that whole middle group who are just corporatists, who just exist to serve the rich.
Yeah.
And like the rest of everything else is kind of either superficial or just kind of secondary. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all these like establishment Democrats and all these like establishment Republicans. I'd even throw like Mitt Romney into that group, who care more about just maintaining the status quo of like the wealthy slowly encompassing all wealth in the country. And that's really all they care about. Everything else is kind of like whatever. Like half the Republican politicians are gay. Like they're not actually against gay marriage. They're just it's all posturing and symbolism.
I was talking to my stepdad, I think, and he were talking about gay people and how come gay people are generally liberal leaning. And he said that, are there right wing gay people? And I said, oh, absolutely. Just most of them are closeted. They don't want to admit it.
Well, that's the thing is that like, and it's the same thing about Mexicans, which I'll get into, but like being gay is kind of a big deal, like love, companionship, like marriage, like these are things that like human beings just fundamentally like want,
Right.
So like even if you were economically like right wing and you're like, yeah, fuck the poor, but you knew that the right wing didn't want you to live your life like as you saw fit, like you have no choice really but to be a Democrat.
It's always been funny too, because like they're like we're the party of rights, individual rights,
but
they've
like
been like the main detractor of destruction of modern rights or whatever.
But what I was saying about Mexicans, and that's kind of the funniest part about the Republican Party, is that a lot of Mexicans are devout Catholics. Like a lot of Mexicans have very socially conservative positions.
Correct.
I mean, I grew up in Southern California, man. Like all of my neighbors were first generation Americans or immigrants. A lot of them are Catholic. A lot of them don't like abortion. A lot of them don't like gay marriage. Like a lot of them are deeply conservative religious values, but they vote Democrats because Republicans are so goddamn racist. Yeah. Like if Republicans weren't so goddamn racist, they would have an entire like new voting demographic.
Yeah.
But like that's the funniest part about it.
Well, like, and it's really strange too, because like I think like they say like a lot of Cubans, like of Cuban descent people, like really love Donald Trump, like hardcore.
Well, so and that's I've been doing a lot of reading on sort of the Cuban Revolution. Yeah. A lot of the Cubans that fled, like Castro's Cuba into Florida, were like wealthy people that would have gotten fucking killed in the revolution. So obviously a lot of them are going to have
that makes sense.
sort of Republican economic values.
I have read that a lot of them too like automatically associate the word socialist with like evil, and because a lot of these authoritarian dictatorships often call themselves socialists.
I'd say some of them are. I would say that something like Stalin's Russia or the current like Communist Party in China. I don't think those can be actually effectively called communist. I think that Castro's Cuba is a little different. I think Lenin's Russia is a little different. I think Mao's China is a little different. But ultimately, I don't think authoritarianism, whether it be right wing or left wing, is an actual economically right wing or left wing is an actual leftist position to hold. Like you can't really be like a tanky and still be considered a leftist, at least in my opinion. You know?
Understandable.
Coming up to the break, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Food for thought. But yeah, we'll be back shortly here, folks.
Okay.
Let that process and upload.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the stream, all two of you viewers.
I can't even see it. I have it blocked. I was just perusing, looking for anything interesting to pop up. I saw a funny article that didn't really fit the deal, but Joe Biden has again come out against defunding the police.
Yeah, but to be fair, so is Bernie.
Yeah.
It is.
Do you think they understand it? Because we've talked about it before on here. That it's.
I don't know, man. I don't know if Bernie can even publicly express his opinions anymore, just until the election. Just because he doesn't.
They'll hurt Biden.
Yeah, he doesn't want to turn people away from Joe Biden.
Oh, damn, that's a good one. Hold on, I'll scroll it down so you can see it. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah, I might agree with you on that one. I think he's doing everything he can. That's kind of what we were talking about a little bit beforehand. Was is he making those moves because he's trying to?
Yeah, I guess we can talk into that,
or we can wait for that segment.
Yeah, okay. The next part of the stream.
It'll be just
because
it's
yeah,
uploading.
You know that I love Bernie with all my heart.
I do too. Some good old Bernie.
But yeah, I don't know. It's with a heavy heart that I have to say, Bernie's the ops.
There we go. It's on the processing chain here.
Bernie, I don't know. He's just consistently breaking my fucking heart, man.
It hurts. It causes me pain.
Yeah, it's a rough one. But you know, I don't know. Never meet your heroes, man.
Yeah, it's true. What did you tell me that one time, that the best thing about Bernie losing is we don't have to suffer through a Bernie presidency?
Like the silver lining is that I don't have to be disappointed by a Bernie presidency.
Imagine all the memes we could have had though with Obi-Wan. You were the chosen one. Yeah.
I think we would have probably. I think the left in America is so disillusioned and downtrodden that just a mild social democrat like Bernie Sanders was enough for us to project all of our hopes and dreams onto.
Well, yeah, you could argue too that we haven't seen a leader like him since the 60s. 70s maybe.
Since I don't know, man. Since ever, really.
Yeah.
We've had this just continuous downward right wing slide, and even Democrat presidents like Bill Clinton is the one who deregulated the banks, got rid of Glass-Steagall, you know, and Obama expanded the drone strike program.
I've done some research on this. Just a little bit, because I like to have my facts, because I find myself often arguing with older people. And we'll touch on that here.
Sure.
Once we get on this here, because I want to go back to.
Oh, we lost a viewer.
Yeah, it's all right.
Damn.
All right. Okay, what were we going to talk about? Bernie's the ops.
We can talk about Bernie being the ops.
All right, I'll start with the question.
All right.
There we go. Part 2. Okay, so do you think, because in between, folks, we were talking a little bit about Biden and Bernie not supporting defunding the police, and my co-host here said that Bernie's probably holding off on a lot of his true stances, and then I said it's probably to protect Biden.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, and that's it. So then before the podcast started, I brought up a point that I had heard, not sure if I believe it, but it's an interesting take, hot take, if you will, that a lot of the reasons Bernie but has been so hard on supporting Joe Biden instead of going third party is to prevent the formation of a third party.
So I think it's clear at this point that the movement that Bernie started has kind of outgrown him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's done a lot to invigorate the left in this country, to invigorate, working class solidarity in this country. But at this point, I don't know if the left has just been so beaten down and downtrodden in the U.S. that it latched onto Bernie because he was the only person who's not just the worst, But Bernie Sanders in any other country would be barely left of center, if not a full-on centrist. I think, though, that in Bernie's heart of hearts, that he truly just believes that Joe Biden is just exponentially better than Donald Trump. Like, I really think that he's doing what he believes is right. I might disagree on him or with him on that, but I think that he's acting with his conscience.
I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the podcast before. Or we have, actually, like the harm reduction theory and all that jazz. But
sure.
For me, I guess it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what's easier as a leftist or a social democrat or, anything left of center? Like, what's easier, fighting both the corporate wing and the conservatives, or fighting just the corporate wing? What's an easier platform to launch?
You mean like reforming the Democrats versus completely
just abandoning them? What if we all join the Republican Party?
Just change it from the inside. Yeah. I've thought about that. Living in like a red state, I was like, I wonder if I could run as like a Republican.
They say that over 50% of Trump voters support Medicare for all.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. When you actually ask people issue for issue where they stand on a lot of things, the majority of the country is social democrat. It's just that we've been indoctrinated into this sort of team sport.
Yeah, team sport's exactly it.
But no, I've thought about like running as a Republican and just lying to people and just being like, I love God, I love my country, I love guns.
Now it's on here.
Yeah, now it's on the stream. but just being the dumbest person possible.
That's a deep fake. That's fake news. That didn't happen.
Just being the dumbest guy possible all the time, giving like the worst answers to things, and then like winning the nomination and then like actually acting
just
with my
full blown
just completely flip it, but like things would actually improve for these people that voted for me, so that they would still vote for me because they'd be like, oh yeah, I like that guy.
Well, the biggest thing that people want, and this is true for Donald Trump's election and a lot of progressive Dems, by the way, congratulations, Jamal Bowman defeating a 17-term veteran congressman in the primary.
Hell yeah.
More. I think the corporatists are switching their focus to the Senate because they know that
they're losing the
House.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I think there's 96 proclaimed progressives or something in the House.
Sure.
I don't know.
Not
all of them stand up for their.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems pretty high.
Not all of them actually stand up for their ideals, i.e., everybody who endorsed Biden over Bernie. But we're not going to get into that today.
No, there is no argument to be made because Bernie is not a leftist. Bernie is a liberal. He's a little further left than most liberals. Mm-hmm. But like, if you supported Joe Biden over Bernie, you're a conservative. There's no way around it. Yeah. Like, I don't know why Republicans don't love Joe Biden. Like, I don't get it, because he agrees with them on everything. On everything. He's against legalization of marijuana. He wanted to leave abortion up to the states. He's staunchly against Medicare for all. So it's like, why do you not love this guy? I don't understand.
Maybe that's why they nominated him, just to win. Maybe it is team-based sport, like you said. Maybe that's why they picked him. They're like, hey, you could have your guy, or you could have our guy with 40 years of awful history that we can prove to you he'll do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a little bit of that. So looking here at the singular greatest piece of research material in the history of the world, Wikipedia, it says there are 97 members of the Progressive Congressional Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them actually run progressive? I'd have to go through each one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. But
something to think about.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to stand for what we do in this day and age.
Well, I don't know how you don't feel just just beaten down constantly all the time.
It's hard. Makes it hard to want to even record these because it's like, who's listening?
I don't know. Not enough.
Share
It'd be
it
so
to
much.
your
It'd be
friends.
so much easier to just pivot to the right. Honestly,
Like,
especially because we've already made like a bunch of podcasts. We could just pivot to the right and be like, like here's how I used to be a liberal,
yeah.
and now I'm a Republican because of this and that, and then
the
just
greatest
collect
Trojan horse operation in the history of the
collect
world.
that fucking Coke money. But yeah, again, that just requires some sort of moral obstacle that I'd have to get over.
Well, the problem here is you have a soul.
The greatest tragedy, though, is that Donald Trump is so bad. Like, his handling of everything has been so awful that I think the Democrats would have won no matter
Regardless
what.
of who they
No
were.
matter what. Whether it had been Joe Biden, it would have been Klobuchar, Buttigieg, any of them would have won the presidency. And it's like, we could have had a Bernie presidency. But Obama fucked it. Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
It's Obama's fault, though. Obama's the ops, bro. Obama's the ops. Pelosi's the ops. Hillary's the ops.
So there was
Clintons are the ops.
There was a interview with an investor of some kind, and they were on, I think it was maybe MSNBC, CNBC, I don't remember, but they were talking about the bailouts, and the guy on the phone was like, "Oh yeah, we should 1,000% let these companies fail," and like the host was like, "What?" And the guy explained it. He's like, "Hey, when these companies fail, people don't lose their jobs; they go into bankruptcy, and like these people end up owning more of the companies because a lot of them, have benefits tied up into ownership of the company."
Yeah. I'm not even necessarily saying we should just let them fail, because that is a lot of people who would lose their jobs.
Well,
but if we're going to bail them out, we should get some sort of equity for it. If it's our tax dollars that are bailing them out, we should have some ownership of that company.
Correct.
We shouldn't just give it like here's just a slush fund that you can just do whatever you want with. And we've proven that it would have cost less to just pay people to stay home. Pay them pretty much their full salary. We could have paid their full salary.
I think for less than the $5 trillion they printed out for banks. And the CARES Act, they could have covered every single working class person's salaries for the rest of the year, and it would still have been cheaper than what they gave out.
Just put on a fucking rent freeze and a mortgage freeze. Pay everyone their salary. Yeah. We could have been done with this in 2 months. We could have been done with COVID. Like it would have been. But they've, and that's where we're at right now. We're at this point where it's just you have one side of the aisle. I guess Democrats aren't doing anything good either, but you have a segment of the population that is just doing everything possible to avoid the actual solution, which is just to send everyone home for a month and we'd be done. But they're like doing everything possible to just ignore the elephant in the room. That's all it is. That's all it's
not even like, to me, it's like not even like ignoring it. Like obviously from like an action standpoint, they've done nothing but buy their stocks back and all that jazz. But like to me, it's more like a rampant, overtly unnecessary politicization of like the issue, right? So like even just like the masks thing, right?
It's so stupid.
Like
it's so stupid.
Like 3 to 6 weeks, if everybody wore a mask, we could be done with it, and we could beat COVID. Like that's the projection. That's the CDC, who's not getting COVID information anymore because Donald Trump wants to control everything because he's a dictator in training. Yeah. Yeah, we could be done with it. It's like I'm going to share a little bit of this. I'm not going to say who. Oh fuck. Let me. But
you know what? Like, and we just pulled out of the World Health Organization. It's like, look, is the WHO perfect? No, obviously they've made mistakes.
Bob O'Reilly
but like
was the only good thing they ever did.
But do I trust doctors more than I trust a fucking game show host? Yeah, obviously. Like.
So this person I'm going to share this. They're on my Facebook feed. I'm not going to throw a name out, but they it's one of these stupid copy and paste chain letter things that have taken over Facebook. And it's, they say, do you know why I wear a mask? Because I need to. This is all quoted right here. I'm just reading this direct. because it's my job. It's because while a ton of you get to be at home spending time with your kids and family and making more than me because of unemployment, I've been working my ass off while you all get to live the high life. You locked down, you quarantined, you got a life, and I was essential for $600 less a week in my checks while you collected up to $800 a week for doing nothing. I'm not scared, but I'm sitting at home being scared is not an option for me. So while y'all locked down and watched the news, I buckled down and helped keep you up for less money. Now you want to dictate how I live my life? Heck no. Your fear is your problem. So it's like that whole thing right there is, where do I start? So people I get mad at people who are collecting unemployment, which ends in 2 weeks, by the way. Start with that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
So it ends in a couple weeks. So that whole argument's going to go out the window. Then what are you guys going to complain about? That they're just on unemployment? I got into an argument with a Trumper friend of mine one time, a long time ago, because he was mad that his neighbor was on unemployment. And he's like, I can't believe my tax dollars go to that guy. And I said, but unemployment doesn't come from tax dollars. It's an insurance fund paid by companies to make sure that you get money if you lose your job for something that's not your fault. Mm-hmm. So then going on there, we're talking back to this mask thing. It's been so overtly politicized. It's like people are walking around being like, oh, you're just a sheeple because you're wearing a mask. It's like, no, I'm wearing a mask because I don't want to have to wear a mask a year from now. Yeah. It's like putting in the effort now so we don't have to pay the price later. Do it right the first time. Yeah. But we can't do that. Because, again, this mask has become this symbol of oppression, even though tyranny is literally around the corner, snatching people up and beating them with sticks.
Yeah. Saw that thing. It was like, this isn't tyranny. And it was like a person shopping with a mask on. This is tyranny. And it had the picture of the unmarked vans scooping people up and then arresting them.
I follow some Second Amendment groups on Facebook as well, just because I'm a gun guy.
They're all whatever about it.
Some of them won't say anything. Some of them have ignored it. Others actually have. The amount of people in our group here that aren't mad about this is very disturbing.
No, they don't care. It turns out that they don't care about oppression at all.
Yeah.
It turns out they have no empathy. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely, Daddy Trump, oppress them harder, please. To them, having to wear a mask for 20 minutes is the height of oppression, because, God, if there was ever any sort of evidence of privilege, it's that your concept of oppression is having to wear a mask for 20 minutes while you shop at Walmart. That's what you consider to be an egregious breach of rights. And yet people getting tear gassed, which is against the Geneva Convention, or people getting shot in the face with a rubber bullet, or people getting murdered wholesale by the police is not oppression. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care about that. I don't give a fuck about that. But making me personally have to be mildly inconvenienced for 15 minutes, that is a violation of my rights at the highest caliber that I can't abide by it.
I've seen people say too online, they're like, you have to understand that this portion of the anti-mask crowd is actually really tiny. They're just really vocal about it. I disagree. I think it's probably 50% of the country.
I think it's less than 50%. It's just Trumpers.
49.
That's it. It's just Trumpers, which I think at this point is 30%. Yeah,
realistically.
But it's but that's it. He politicized it.
Yeah.
He
just flag kneeling.
But it's their ideology is so fucking inconsistent. It's because Trump for months talked about how it was a hoax. There's video of him up until I think April, May, maybe even June, saying that it was a hoax. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "Oh, I've taken it seriously before anyone else even said it." I was like, "Don, this is serious." And it's so then they had to renege on their own, because they know what they said. Donald Trump, I don't know if he knows what he said. He just talks.
He just, what I think I've said this before. He just spouts things off. It's not even about doing anything really. It's about looking the best at any given moment.
He just shoots from the hip to the point that he will say something and he has to finish it, whether or not it was something that he had wanted to say. So he just has to he has to make his sentence rhyme. So he'll start it one way, and he has no idea. It's like that scene from The fucking Office where Michael's like, yeah, sometimes I don't know what it is that I'm about to say, and I just hope that I find it along the way. And it's like, yeah, he just starts a sentence, and he's like, well, I have to finish it. And so he'll just say the most insane shit, and he has to go to the grave defending it now because he said it. And
you were still talking about Trump,
but
right?
like Trump supporters, they know what they said. They know that they were on Facebook talking about how it was a hoax, and then now when Trump says he's taking it seriously, well, now where do they go?
Right.
But it's
I've long said that Trumpers like take the identity politics thing to the max, full on max. They are in a cult, so they either exist or they don't. There's not an in between.
Yeah.
And it's nuts.
And then, like, oh man, they started like calling it the Kung Flu, being as just like racist as possible about it. Just cause that, like, why not do that too?
Somebody once told me, they're like, well, we didn't get mad when they called it the Spanish flu 100 years ago. It's like, actually they did. They didn't even originate in Spain. Like, yeah. They were actually very upset about it.
Yeah, and there's also like kind of a gray area about where the origin of this happened. Some people think it might have even started in Europe, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's not an issue that I personally am having a big stink over. But then, Donald Trump was shaming reporters for wearing masks,
Yeah.
And just like, and then, saying stuff like, if we just didn't test people, like, we wouldn't have so many cases.
Yeah.
Just
the old Chinese approach.
And that's another thing. They believe both that the U.S. is over-reporting their numbers, but that China is under-reporting their numbers, that it's a hoax, but it's also a biological attack, but it's also masks are not effective. Yeah. I've seen that picture of the guy who's doing like concrete, like sheetrock work, and he's like, look at how ineffective this mask is. But then they also think that this mask can cause CO2 poisoning, because it restricts your ability to breathe to such an extent that you might fucking die from wearing it.
I work out in the public.
Sure.
Kind of. I tend to stay away from people just because while I'm 1,000% sure I would survive COVID, I don't want to find out.
Well, we're seeing like a lot of negative.
Well, I saw one that did make me a little concerned, which was I saw a scientific paper written that said like this disease could be vascular now because they're finding blood clots in all the organs of people who've passed away. It's
been causing strokes in younger people, permanent brain damage, permanent like lung scarring, a lot of like bad things that even if you don't die from it, it's definitely not like a cool thing to catch.
It's gonna take a little bit to and I typically, as you've noted to me on this show that we do here, how I tend to hold my tongue on certain things, and keep my language clean and whatnot. But I was talking to a person the other day, and they were complaining about wearing a mask, and I've ran into 80,000 of these. I have an anxiety attack every time I put it on. I can't breathe, and I can't, all these excuses. And finally, one person was just pissing me off because I'd gone through this conversation 1,000 times, and I was like, no, you just don't want to wear the mask because you're a pussy.
No, you do refrain from cursing, so that was nice. But that's honestly what the fuck I want to say half the fucking time to these people.
Like, I'm being polite to you, but sorry, all you anti-maskers out there without a legitimate medical need to not wear one.
There
really isn't any.
There's not.
I'm gonna give the benefit of a doubt to the 40 people in the country who can't wear masks. Because there are people on COPD, on oxygen machines that...
But they are wearing a mask.
They're still wearing an oxygen.
If they have an oxygen
You know what I'm saying?
machine.
That's what I'm saying. This is the absurdity of this whole argument, and why, like, the fact that we're even dealing with this right now and not worried about the child trafficking happening in ICE detention centers.
But yeah, like, is people who... Like, do people who have like anxiety or asthma, are they just barred from being doctors or nurses because you have to wear a mask?
I get anxiety. I can wear the fucking mask.
Like, But it's like this idea, like, there was that post circulating about the marathon runner who had asthma, so he wore a mask so that he wouldn't breathe in all the pollen, and he won a marathon while wearing a mask. Doctors wear masks. Surgeons, certain brain surgeries can take like 16 hours.
Yeah.
Where you're wearing a mask for 16 hours. If it caused some sort of CO2 poisoning, don't you think doctors would know about it?
Like they would. Yeah.
No,
but doctors don't know anything. They can't be trusted.
No,
because I went to the doctor one time and he gave me antibiotics and it was a viral infection, and that means I don't have to listen to him because he could be wrong in this one too.
Yeah, you never have to listen to doctors.
Yeah.
The only person who can be honest to you is a game show host.
Only the president knows, because he came from nothing. He worked himself up.
He came from nothing. His dad was only a billionaire.
And in the KKK.
And in the KKK. Yeah, that's the funniest thing though, is that like,
so it's there.
That this idea of like Donald Trump not being a racist. Honestly, my grandpa's a 70-something-year-old white guy.
Yeah.
He's racist. He's for sure racist. He's 100% racist. This idea that like that Trump like couldn't be racist is crazy. You telling me like, come on.
I had to argue with my Trumper friend one time too. This was 2 years ago, so we don't have we have enough evidence of it already, but it wasn't enough for him. And I had to like fight that argument with him, and I was like, oh my God. That's more exhausting.
Come on.
Like, I will always fight that argument. Like, Donald Trump is a 100% certifiable racist. Period.
Yeah. I don't even know why there's even a debate about it. Yeah, it's disputed.
Oh, because it's to own the libs.
It's to own the libs. Oh, fucking Goya to own the libs. Buying beans to own the libs. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. 20% unemployment. This is what we're talking about. Like, buying fucking Goya to own the libs. God, and it's just like, you could have been eating Goya this whole time. Like, but now suddenly everyone's like, oh, I fucking love Goya. It's delicious. It's the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Can't believe I've never tried these before.
You never liked Goya before. You probably don't even like it now. That's really, I think, the biggest issue with the left is that the right is just so much better at groupthink.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we're going to boycott Goya. Like fucking lefties were like, oh, we're going to boycott Goya because they like Trump. And what happened? The right wing went, no, we're all going to buy so much Goya.
We're going to
buy all of the Goya.
When you guys don't have food because the food chain is collapsing, we're going to have Goya.
We're going to have so much fucking Goya.
The world's going to trade in Goya in the collapse.
You could just like, I don't know, what's the worst product? Just... I don't know what it is. Just like, because honestly, if that company came out and went like, oh, I love Donald Trump, fucking Trumpers would pour it all over themselves. Oh fuck, this is great. I love it. It's so good.
Fucking Procter and Gamble probably. Yeah. Some Tide.
Yeah. Like whatever it is, whatever the worst.
We should be slick like some Aikido shit here. Like reverse it on them. Like we should all like say we're gonna like boycott something that will obviously like hurt them, and then boycott it so they buy it all up.
They buy it all up. They would like, all right, let's boycott. I don't know, cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll play the long game here.
We'll just get them all to get lung cancer. I smoke though, so I don't.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, you could be like. Yeah, just anything. The worst, whatever the worst fucking thing is, fucking, and tell them that it's like, it's awesome, or that like, just, if that company came out and went like, yeah, we love Trump, they would bathe in it, whatever the fuck it was.
Here's a good one. I've seen an unhealthy obsession from the right. Whenever a company comes out and is like, we demand you wear masks in our stores now. Like Walmart is a big one that just now announced, starting tomorrow actually. And then they're like, well, I guess I'm going to be shopping at XXX or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool story. Shop independent, please.
Yeah.
The corporation.
That's not. That's
good.
I
think what the right is really good at is keeping us off of the issues that actually like
Yeah, just obfuscating
matter.
every issue. But that's like the biggest thing, especially about like Pizzagate and shit, or like Epstein and all this stuff, is that they're just constantly like, it's the Clintons, it's the fucking Hollywood, it's everyone that we don't like conveniently, but we'll ignore the fact that like statistically Republican politicians have been accused of sexual assault with higher frequency than Democrat politicians, and that Donald Trump was good buddies with fucking Epstein. And this isn't like any sort of defense of Democrats or Bill Clinton. Like, I don't give a fuck about Clinton. Like, I don't. But like, and it's the same thing with Pizzagate. It's the same thing with Wayfair. Is that these people don't actually care about real sexual assault.
No.
They just like to obfuscate the issue all the time. Black lives matter. No, all lives matter. Blue lives matter. There's people that are being, sexually assaulted in ICE. What about Pizzagate? And it's like, well, like, it's all just showmanship.
Yeah.
It's all just like whatever the fuck. Like,
we should ban Antifa because they're fascists and they use fascism.
But like, let's not do anything about like the KKK or like neo-Nazis, even though right-wing terrorism has killed more people in the U.S. than even Islamic terrorism has.
Leaked police documents have shown that the police this whole time have known that the right-wing extremists are the real source of violence.
Yeah, and that's the real reason I think that these like unmarked vans are arresting these people and then like taking pictures of them and then releasing them, is to just dox them to their like militant right-wing fucking militias to go and enact violence on them on their own. That's the big thing with like Andy No, is that he was known for being like a doxer.
Yeah.
And like, a woman got her fucking back broken by some right-wing fascist group.
Yep.
Because she got doxxed by Andy fucking No.
It's always in Portland, which is the weirdest thing.
Portland, no. Portland's a weird mix because Oregon is a weird mix.
Oregon is a weird mix.
Because you have a lot of like, Portland is like, keep it weird or whatever the fuck their logo, their slogan is.
Very high population of like leftists, and also maintaining a very high population of conservative hardcore right wingers.
The biggest like KKK chapter I think is in Northern California, if I'm not mistaken. And I lived in Northern California for a little bit. So I definitely ran into a lot of these people flying like Confederate flags, and it's like, dude, you live in California. Like, this is absolutely 100% not a heritage thing.
Yeah.
But like,
it's like people who fly them here. It makes zero sense.
Yeah. But they like to, but that's like California wants to, like the people in Northern California want to split off and create their own state of Jefferson or whatever, because they're actually all conservatives,
Right.
But they live in California, which is considered to like fucking liberal paradise or whatever.
Yeah,
even though honestly, it's like the neoliberal fucking utopia. Like, look at San Francisco and just the wealth disparity that goes on in that place, where you just have homeless people constantly everywhere, and yet you have these wealthy tech assholes.
Yeah.
But I have to piss like a fucking racehorse, man.
All right, that's all you, man. That's what Beers does.
Yeah, we got 3 viewers.
Do it?
Try to chat it up with them.
I will attempt to do that very thing. It was a trap. I refused to do any of it. I'm just kidding. Yeah, the whole thing is nuts. Just the little things that we see coming in and just like, it baffles me. Just the reality of people trying to like disparage movements and like, these are real issues. But then when the real issues come out, they're like, that's not important. This thing is important. I'd rather fight my requirement to wear masks than... Yeah. It's a very depressing time. It really is. That's what 5 Modelos will do to you.
5 models, baby. Fresh.
So that's me. I'm a slow starter. I know.
It's crazy because
but then like once I hit that point, there will be a certain point of no return where I'll drink whatever's put in front of me. Like doesn't matter what it is. Like
which is nuts because like you ever like try to drink enough water during the day or whatever, and you have to like force yourself to drink like enough water to stay hydrated, and yet it's like I'll drink like a 6-pack and just like not even
think about it. do you think it's like because like there's no like in water there's no sugar like to trigger my like your Pavlovian response or whatever? Like I derive no pleasure from drinking this.
Yeah, maybe. Or you're just like this is just like whatever.
There's no there's
no like goal in mind.
Sight. Yeah, there's no benefit other than survival.
Whereas like beer, like I know the more I drink, the better I'm gonna feel, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
100%. I believe that's to be true. We should write a paper on it. Bet we get our doctorates out of it. Nope. Not the ADAT port. We want the instrument in.
Are we back?
There we go. Back to police news. I was reminded. I was scrolling through the news section of the website I'm on, and did you see the video of the guy yanked out of his car by the police when the police officer's like, "Enjoy the show, folks"?
Oh yeah. The black dude.
Yeah, the black guy.
Who was like, "I'm not resisting" or whatever.
I'm not
And
doing
he was
anything.
like, "I'm gonna
He's
beat
like,
your fucking ass."
They haven't told me to do anything. I'm just here. My hands are in the air.
Yeah, and then like so many bootlickers are like, "Well, you should have like that's what he gets for not like obeying orders." It was a traffic stop. There's no reason you have to get out of your car for a fucking traffic stop. Like they could write you the ticket and send you on your way, you know?
But that's what they do though. Like they set you up for failure based Like it's ridiculous. Yeah. Let's see, what else did I have? I wanted to touch on a couple other things today.
Did you ever watch Good Will Hunting?
Years ago. It's been a while.
Do you remember when he fights a police officer in that movie?
No.
And then he represents himself in court, and he points to some sort of like obscure statute that basically says that you're allowed to defend yourself against unlawful arrest. Mm-hmm. And that's true, but like, is it though?
It's really not, because they can always they're gonna pull the same thing. There's video upon video upon video of it. He had a weapon. I feared for my life.
But yeah, but like
then like there was the thing in like
how far would that take you though? Like if you actually killed some like a cop who was like arresting you for unjust reasons. Like, do you think you could get away with that?
No, 100% not. Because we have, and maybe it even ties into like labor. Like we have this like identity thing that we do for like our jobs, and it's like as soon as you say like attacked a cop, most of the public shuts down. They're not like, well, what does that mean? You know, they don't dive any deeper into it.
I'm thinking that they're that's shifting, or at least I'm hoping it is.
I would like to hope it is.
I definitely think.
You know,
I think younger people definitely don't like the cops.
I had a long conversation with my dad about this over the weekend, and he was, you know, by the end of it, he was like, "Oh yeah, all cops are bastards."
Hell yeah.
But like, if you don't know, you'll never make those changes in your mind. It's just like it's one of the reasons why, like a couple podcasts ago, I brought up the. Like the Supreme Court decisions that say they don't have to come to you and they don't have to protect you. Like that stuff is important to understand that it's a constructed system. Yeah. See, when I was doing some runnings for politics, I caught some flack because I made a statement like people should stop thinking that the system is broken because it works. It's working exactly as intended. Like
so a lot of lefty circles that I'm in talk about like completely abolishing the police. Mm-hmm. Like I know the national discourse is defunding the police,
right?
Which is a completely different thing. I think we've talked about what it means, like lowering their budgets to allocate that money to other sort of public health resources.
Right. Invest in the community. Police create crime and so forth.
Police react to crime. They don't prevent crime. You know, so it was like allocating things to like education, to mental health services, things like that. are there reforms to the police that you think that it could be saved as an institution?
I saw a tweet that I think sums this up pretty well, and it was the anti-maskers have done more damage to cashiers making minimum wage, and the cashiers have never responded with violence. So the fact that cops can't do it, even though they've been trained not to, is pretty telling in that when it comes to like the scope of the problem here. So are there reforms that I think we could do?
Do you think like it's an institution that can be saved? You know, you'll find a lot of lefties like completely are like, nah, just get rid of them.
I think from what I think to a point, yes, but there has to be matching reforms in like prosecution and like through the whole chain. Like if you just reform the police, like you're not nothing will change because like you'll still see it on the back end.
Yeah, we'll have to 100% abolish private prisons.
Yeah, private prisons gotta go.
That's 100%.
Prison labor has to go.
Prison labor has to go.
We have to end.
We have to end any sort of economic incentive to have prisoners.
We need to really put an end to what's called the revenge culture. Like, there's that famous prison warden from Norway who talks in the U.S. a lot about this. And he's like, the difference between prisons here and other places are like that we work to reform citizens and so forth. And he's like, we don't stigmatize people for going to jail. Yeah, that's why I think like, was it Minnesota that banned the box so they can't check criminal history?
I don't know.
I think it might be.
I don't know.
Might be Wisconsin. I don't remember. Like that's a good start. Like that's another thing is like the problem is like once you're in, they put a kid in jail.
The reoffense rate. Yeah.
The reoffense rate is recidivism is like 93%.
Is it that high?
Yeah,
really?
it's high. Oof. Yeah, at least it was when I was in a college criminal justice class. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I should ask the wife. She actually went to school for criminal justice. So yeah, but the point here I'm trying to make is like if you were going to reform the police, like you have to reform the rest of the systems around it as well.
Yeah, they all rely on the police.
The end result, like prosecutors, for instance, make their careers out of putting people in jail regardless of.
Yeah. Cash bail would have to be.
Cash bail needs to be abolished.
And the war on drugs, obviously. War on drugs.
Like, I had a conversation with somebody about, like, why Mexico is in such a rough state with the cartels and whatnot. And I said, it's 1,000% bad U.S. foreign policy.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. And it's been a few years since I've looked up the statistics, but it was, I think, 70% of the cartel's funding came from marijuana sales to the U.S.
It's gotten so crazy. That
weed sales, bro.
They're going on to... onto federal land like parks, and they're growing fields in the parks. Like that's how silly it's getting. Like
and it's like
it's nutty. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna reform the police, like I said, you can't just target the police because you'll see something else. It's kind of like the power vacuum.
What would you do about sort of like the like public defender situation, because you know how they only have like 10 minutes per client, right? Because they're just so overworked. Like, do you have to like abolish private law firms?
Back in my political days, which will soon be recent, hopefully come next year.
Yeah.
I used to make the claim that education was the singular biggest problem in the United States. That most issues that we have actually come down to what we think education's role in our society is. And I still sort of think that's true. But that's only like half of the coin.
Yeah. But like
defeating the billionaires is the other half. But my point here is like, so like public defender deal, like in a good criminal justice system, actually in just a good economy, like getting a lawyer shouldn't be that hard anyways.
Yeah.
But because the criminal justice system actively targets poor people and prior offenders, like I have a friend who was pulled over once just for being a felon because they ran his plate and then ran his name, and then they stopped him and he's like, I wasn't speeding, but they said I was. Mm-hmm. Then how do you fight back? So yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, and then the more things go on too, I'll throw this out there. Like, I want to be able to say like, yeah, we could just reform the police and be done with it. Mm-hmm. But the more things that happen and the more cases that get tried, the more I'm like, not doing any favors for your case here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean,
some people. Sorry, I'm gonna ramble here for a minute. Some people like, they're like, well, it's just a job. It's a job they have to do. And it's like, well, that is true for good cops. For bad cops, it's what they wake up for. Like they get out of bed and
I think even good cops, or at least people who join the force to be good, are thrust into this culture of like us versus them, of like everyone wants to kill you all the time. I think some of them might not even be like angry, violent, hot dog neck, Oakley wearing fucking assholes like the bad cops are, but are just like told every day that like everybody could murder you, everybody could have a gun. Yeah.
So I'll describe what I'm showing him here. It's a famous. It was a viral tweet a couple days ago, but it's a couple boys who are little boys who started crying when they saw Detroit police officers, and the 4-year-old was afraid they were going to hurt him. They're black, and the police took time to talk to them and bring him snacks. But in the background is a cop with his hand on his gun, like
yeah, or just like. I've seen picture after picture of like traffic stops where the cop has his hand on his gun during the stop, where it's like, so how often you think someone is willing to fucking shoot you over a ticket? Like
they may want to, but
I mean, but I mean, like if I'm comparing a $60 ticket versus like if you killed a cop, odds are you're not even getting arrested. So, odds are you're getting murdered.
I was listening to a podcast one time. This is kind of along the similar lines of this conversation, and they were talking about like, why do certain justice videos make us feel good? And that can be like when a cop delivers punishment to somebody who quote deserves it, or like a bully gets beat up at school. Like, why do we applaud that? And it's like nobody says like if somebody pulls a gun on a police officer with the intent to kill them, like nobody ever argues like, oh, that cop should have tried to stop him. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's the disproportionate of response is the problem. I guess.
Yeah, you could shoot somebody who's trying to shoot you, obviously.
Yeah, nobody's going to argue that. And I don't think I've seen anybody on the far left that I know of make that point. They're like, aside from abolish the police, then that makes the whole point moot. But you know what I'm saying? So like people like want an appropriate response to a situation, but they also want like a police force that is going to do what it says, protect and serve. They want a police force that's going to come help you, not protect the state, not protect Target because some white supremacists broke the glass and started a riot. Like,
but yeah, I don't know. The reason I even like brought up the question is because I've been seeing a lot of advertisements for this like product on my Facebook, where it's like this Bolo launcher.
Oh yeah.
Have you been getting those commercials
too?
Thing
I've ever seen. I want one.
And then like all of the comments are just about like, oh, every police officer should have this, blah blah blah. Like it would be such like a better, less lethal option like in their repertoire. But I'm also just like, it also brings up sort of like, especially looking at now, just these unjust arrests that are going on, of just like even if like it might be a less lethal option, but it doesn't change the fact that they're just immobilizing political dissent and like arresting people unlawfully.
Right. And I would say like, what about the follow up too? Like it's a good idea in principle. Batman uses bolos. But like then they bolo you and you trip and you fall and then they what? Then they put their knees on your neck and kill you? Like
No. I'm not in favor of this fucking bolo shit. I'm just saying like, but I've been seeing a lot of people sharing that and being like, oh, this would be so much better like if the cops had another one.
I think that
cops have a lot of non-lethal options as is, and they choose not to use them.
Right, they go straight for
shooting people, but whatever.
Let me see. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna order one right now.
But
they're sold out on Amazon. Shit.
Yeah, and but it's not so much as like giving the police new toys or new weapons. Like that's not how you reform them.
Yeah, it's gotta be getting. I saw like one option is something that's like, what do they call it? Like community policing, where you make sure you hire officers from your community.
Oh yeah.
That's a big one because what. I like to see a lot of these Republicans, one size fits all. Plan doesn't work for everybody. Self-choice, whatever. Mm-hmm. Hiring somebody from a bad neighborhood to help police it. That is a better option than sending people in from the outside.
Or just like, I don't know. And these are like my communist pipe dreams, obviously. Mm-hmm. But just like having communities that actually like care about each other and like can police themselves in a way of just like
the only policing of communities that I ever see in this country, at least from my experience in my life, has always been like, oh, that person in their property bothers me, I'm gonna call the city on them. Like there's never
it's never been a good thing.
Yeah,
like it's never been like
that's like the individual.
This person I see going on like a bad path. Like let's get him like a productive outlet for this like energy.
Yeah, they don't ever help. It's always negative. It's
always like HOAs and shit like that. Like,
homeowners
this person is not
should 1,000% be illegal in this country.
Yeah.
Period. Like, like you want to talk about?
Like I bought this. I bought this property. Like this is my spot. Yeah. And you're gonna come over here and tell me I need to mow my lawn.
Yeah. It's like, let me tell you something. Let me tell you why.
I'm gonna install turf.
There was one. Dude, mini clover. I want to seed mini clover.
Moss.
This is how old I've gotten. I actually looked into reseeding my yard. Mini clover only grows as tall as like the first time you cut it.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, dude, I could do my yard once and I would be happy.
Yeah.
No, it's like I heard this quote one time a long time ago that it says you can tell the size of the man by the issues he takes to heart. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if my yard being tall is the worst thing you've experienced in your life, you should consider yourself pretty fucking privileged. Like,
well, it goes back to the mask thing. Like, if this is your only encounter with oppression, finger quotes for the audio listeners, then like clearly you've never actually experienced any real hardship in your fucking life.
You've never lived through it. You've never been like the type of person to live through squalor or
like stole a shopping cart to like put your things in because you were getting evicted.
Yeah, or slept in a car across the street from your best friend's house because you didn't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
Or
like clearly like me. This. I've been there, bro. When I first moved to Colorado, I had an interview. I had a job lined up, and then I had an interview to rent a room in this person's house the day I got there. And in my mind, I was like, I've gotten everything I've ever interviewed for. So, like, I got this. Interviewed with them, and then they called me later that night and were like, oh, well, my wife wants to live with a woman, so we're going to go with that option instead. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm homeless. So I slept in my truck for like 2-3 days before I was able to find another place on Craigslist that I was able to move into.
Close. Like, there have been times where I was like, man, I'm not sure, like, what the plan here is. Like, I don't know what we're gonna, but people have come through for me each time. But like, I can definitely understand how you can end up that way and be like,
another time when I was living in California, I was renting a room in a trailer park, and there wasn't any sort of contract. It was just like I was giving this lady, $300 a month for this room. Mm-hmm. And then one day she was like, all right, starting next month, it's going to be $400. And I was like, well, I don't have that. Like, what are you talking about? So it was like, that stuff happens. And like, if you lose your job, like what happens from there,
Right.
I've been laid off, or I had my contract expire before. And I've applied for unemployment. I've never actually gotten unemployment. Because from the day I applied, it took 2 weeks to get the letter back to me, and I needed to fill out all of the information and then mail it back to them. And usually it's been like a month and a half, 2 month process. And by that point, I usually have another job. So
Right.
like,
One time, I had the opportunity one time to apply for unemployment, and I had a job lined up pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually never did because I just always figured like might as well just roll with what I'm gonna get here.
Sure.
So yeah, but then
let's
say you do go on unemployment, then people are mad at you for something that's probably not your fault.
But like, let's even say though that like you didn't have that other job lined up, and you were waiting on the process for unemployment, and that process took 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You might have already lost your fucking house by then.
Yep.
You
You
know,
don't
or
have an address to.
you don't have an address to get a
get your
job.
mail.
I mean, they've found that like the biggest problem with being homeless is not having a home. You know.
Well, like that goes. Like I watched a document. Was it a documentary? Maybe it was a podcast. It was an interview with somebody who works with the homeless. Dude, these bolas are expensive.
Yeah.
Anyways, and they always talked about like the lady would talk about like they built like an apartment complex to end homelessness. It was like a pilot program.
Yeah.
In Utah of all places.
Yeah. No, I've heard about this in Utah.
And like they would put these homeless people in these apartments, give them everything they need, like new pots, new pans, new everything, new bed, new sheets, blah blah blah. And like they would come in and find them like in the corner of one room sleeping on the floor, and they're like, what are you doing out here? And they would always reply like, I don't trust that this is actually mine. Like I'm afraid that like you guys are gonna come in here anytime, like some sick joke, and throw them out. So like in a way, like homelessness is almost like a mental state as well, because like there are things you have to overcome in order just to reintegrate to what we would consider normal.
But did you look at what Sweden did as far as giving housing to the homeless? Where they realized it was more cost effective just to give them homes than to like have them continue being homeless. And then 5 out of 6 of them reintegrated into society, got jobs.
If the opportunity is there, people will absolutely reintegrate.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a certain segment of homeless people who are like mentally ill and just incapable of caring for themselves. But those people should also be taken care of.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole
But a lot of times, and this is a point that I try to stress a lot to a lot of these working class people who still vote against their own interests, is that like you are way closer to being homeless than you are to being a billionaire. Unless you are a 500 millionaire, you're closer to being homeless. You're closer to having $0 than you are to having $1 billion, unless you're a 500 millionaire.
Yeah.
So like, you could have a couple of bad months. Your head gasket could burst. That's a $1,400 expense. You don't have a car anymore. Now, if your job was something that you needed to be there at a certain time of the day, and the buses don't run there, how do you get there? You don't have a job.
How come
you lose
nobody?
Your place.
How come nobody ever questions the absurdity that a arbitrary number like your credit score, which requires you to play their game on their terms, can affect your ability to find a place to live? Like, how come nobody ever questions that? It's like, the people that do go on to, become a homeowner, like they've never once stopped along the way. And it's like, how come the bank gets to determine, the private bank, by the way, gets to determine where and where I can't live? Like, aside from the fact that, redlining used to be a thing, and it still is to a massive degree, but
schools are more segregated today than they were in the 70s.
Yeah. There are places here in this state where like you can tell the racial makeup of a part of the city based on where the railroad track is, like. So yeah, but and it's like, no, like I told somebody that one time, because I was like, how come there's no competition to the banks to get a house? They're like, what? I was like, you've never thought about that? Like, how come the banks control everything? Like, if you want to go somewhere and live, you can either rent it at an exorbitant rate. Because I think it's universally accepted that rent is too high. Pretty much everywhere. There was who was that candidate?
Rent's too damn high.
Fucking legend.
Yeah.
Like, nobody disagrees
amazing
with that
facial
fact.
hair.
Even 100%. Even here in the Midwest, like, 2-bedroom house, $900 easy.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money. Did you see, on a side note, did you see that infographic that McDonald's and Visa put out trying to show that you could survive off of a $8.25 an hour job?
I didn't see that, no.
Well, in very tiny print underneath the income section, they put second job, which had more income than their job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh,
yeah,
fuck.
well, that's the, like, it's obvious to anybody who's ever had to be, like, lower class or lower middle class, but, like, our policymakers and our media pundits, all of these people that are in the public eye have no clue. They're so disaffected by the struggles of the everyday person. Mm-hmm. They have no idea. They have no idea how much, or how little, I should say, that even $10 an hour is.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't comment on it, but I wanted to, because they said like I think that it was based off $8.50 an hour, the little graphic, mm-hmm. and I was like, so what you're telling me is that with that 15 a minimum isn't even enough, that it should be $16.50. Like, that's what you're telling me right now.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, factually, I think there's another infographic that said that there's nowhere in the country where minimum wage job can afford an apartment.
Correct.
Yeah. And so you think about that shit. You think about like an 18-year-old kid who gets like pregnant right out of high school. What are their options in this fucking world? Mm-hmm. Childcare on average costs $12,000 a year.
Correct.
All right. Like, let's say you are making $10 an hour, just for the sake of math, because I'm dumb, and then that makes it easier to do off the top of my head. You're working 40 hours a week. You're taking home $400 a week. Let's not even take out taxes, because again, for the simplicity's sake.
You're right.
That's what? $1,600 a month?
I believe so.
So if childcare is $12,000 a year, you're talking $1,000 a month in childcare to take care of that kid. So you have...
That's half your income.
There's more than half. You have $600 left now. And then again, this is not factoring in taxes. You have $600 left.
Or insurance.
What are you getting for rent? Like, what if your rent is $400? Now you have $200 a month of actual disposable income. And this is not including things like utilities, things like insurance, gas, food. Mm-hmm. You're telling me you have to survive now on what? What did I say? $200 a month?
Yeah, basically.
Like,
a whole lot of
what do you do?
Butter
like,
noodles,
what
man.
do you do?
Let me tell you.
And then you have the audacity to complain about food stamps. Or
I once had a job. I'll give you a situation here. This was 11 years ago.
And again, $10 an hour is $2.75 over minimum wage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is higher than a minimum wage job. This was
12 years ago. So, at the height of the recession, I had this $10 job, and I tell you what. Let's see here. I'm going to do some math for you because I don't remember the specifics. Let's see. So 40 times 10 is 400 a week. Oh, my God. I can't do that in my head. So $1,600 a month is what I was living on, basically.
Yeah.
That's gross. Taxes and all that nonsense came out, and I was probably left with maybe $1,300, $1,200. Mm-hmm. And rent in itself was $5 plus $550. It was pretty cheap for the place. A little two-bedroom trailer.
I've lived in a trailer park, man.
I actually liked it. But anyways,
me too.
So that leaves us what? So we'll say 1,200 minus 5, so that leaves you 700. But then you got utilities, which is 400 ish, depending.
400. Oof. What are you paying for utilities?
Well, you got your water bill, so 50.
Let's say like 100,
50,
150.
Electricity is the most expensive one, 100. So there's 200 there. I don't think I had insurance at that job. I'm missing a utility, and I had to have internet. Internet's essential. So there's another 80. So $300 in utilities. So that leaves you $300 to live on, which sounds like a lot, but that's over
$300 a month. Does not sound like a lot.
That's over 30 days. So
that doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah, it's not. Then you have your little minor things that people don't think about, like
food.
Gas, food.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like, whether or not you have money in your fucking wallet or your bank, there are things that you have that are not negotiable. you need a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
You need food. You know, you need electricity. Like, these are not. So whether or not you get like $1,000 of disposable income, that needs to be divvied up to things that you have to fucking have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all an illusion.
Yeah,
it's
is.
all an
And
illusion.
I've long said,
You know, it's the same reason that like sales tax isn't calculated on like your purchases where it is in like other countries. You know, it's all an illusion.
Uh-huh.
You see a product and you see that it says like $5.50 on it, but in actuality the price is like $5.65. You know.
Well, sales and like property taxes are two of the most regressive taxes
but
because
that's
they
all,
fall distinctly on the working class.
But it's all just like schemes to nickel and dime you for everything you have, man. Did you want to do one more segment, or you want to call it?
I think we'll call it good today. I
Cool.
think that's a good way to go roll through it and
just
touched on
about
some good
how
subjects. A little bit of
everything
a
is shit.
little bit of a rambler, but you know, as things continuously spiral out of control, like what else is there to do but talk
Buy
about
guns
it?
and ammo.
Yeah.
Be prepared because something's gonna happen next month.
Something, yeah. If you
Something's
think
gonna
it's
happen.
bad now, wait until 20% of the population loses their homes.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
like we went through this once already, and I'm really afraid to see what happens next time. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, good night.